Verbally Effective with Ina Esco is an interview-style podcast that intersects art, culture, politics, and entertainment with a Memphis focus. Each week, I'm joined by a featured guest with roots in Memphis. Verbally Effective delves into each guest's personal journey to uncover the incredible stories fueling their purpose, the highs and lows of their pursuits, and how through their passion, they are moving the culture forward.
Wands is the score to a story.
Yes. What story is that?
Well, that's what you'll find out at the top of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. We had to get the score out there first. It was unorthodox, but that's on par for me. So.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah. Unorthodox is on par for you. And that's what we love about you.
Thank you.
Because you approach things very creatively and different. Trends are trending. A lot of people like to jump up on trends, but you go the other way.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a thought about this. I feel like if everybody's going left and you decide to go right because everybody's going left, well, where everybody's going still helped you make a decision, right? Mm-hmm. So you're still being controlled or influenced by a majority, right? You have to make that decision blindfolded, right? With only you in front of you, right? And that's, for me, that's the center of everything that I do. Mm-hmm. I might do something that other people are doing, but it won't be because somebody else is doing it. It's because for me, it was a good idea to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Now, something you just mentioned is you're watching the numbers. And streaming is such a huge topic in this digital age right now. Mm-hmm. Do you understand the formula on how they come up with these numbers? I'm thinking you do, because a lot of us don't.
Yeah. You just mean on how... like coming up with how much a stream pays and costs and things like that.
All the things, how they capture who's listening, because there's a big discrepancy in the world of Drake right now with what he's encountering with his label UMG because of the success of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us.
I think I have a pretty general understanding of how those kinds of things works, and then Drake's potential grievances in that scenario. I don't know. I feel like all of that is a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors. You know what I'm saying? If I'm being 1,000% honest with you, especially when marketing and drama and rage are key factors to getting people's attention, and the most valuable commodity on planet Earth right now is people's attention.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I don't know what to believe or what not to believe until I can go into some office and talk to somebody or go and look at some spreadsheets or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. All of this could be a large campaign of some sort.
You think they may be best friends behind closed doors right now?
Probably not Kendrick and Drake. Probably not. After hearing what was that one with the Alchemist beat? After hearing that one.
He in below the belt.
I was like, nah, that man hates Drake.
Going in.
That man hates Drake, for sure. I don't think Drake hates Kendrick, but Kendrick hates Drake, for sure. I ain't never heard a more scathing response in the history of rap.
Scathing.
Yeah. So,
Are you a fan?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of both of them. I like them both. I think. And that's the weirdest thing to say now, is to not choose a side and to say, hey, I like what bro did over here. I like what bro did over here. Mm-hmm. I think, I always think that competition is is good for the culture, but I do think that there's limitations to that. I think you don't want to, compete at a level where things get dangerous, right? And I think, we've seen that. We've seen that. We've seen
East
that back
Coast,
in the
West
90s.
Coast.
Yeah, we've seen that, And, at some point, just like human beings, we love a gladiator's fight. We love to watch.
We do.
We love to cheer on until something crazy happens, right? And people start getting hurt, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you got to, sport is good for the culture, but there has to be like discernment on how far it should go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have a lot of villain energy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? Where does that come from, James?
Yeah. So I was just talking about this. Big shout out to my guy Pro. Big shout out to
How is Pro doing?
Pro is good. Pro's my brother.
I love me some Pro.
Yeah, Pro's the man. He's good. He's one of the first that I think like truly understood and adopted what I was talking about when I said villain energy, you know, back in like 2011 or whatever. But, you know, it's simple to me. You know, I grew up watching cartoons and TV shows and movies where, you know, there's always a hero and a villain. And it's some part of the story, the hero is going to get challenged. The hero is going to get discouraged. He's not going to know if this is his calling, if he's the one who's supposed to do it, right? He's going to go and seek guidance and, you know, and hopefully get back to his form to go and win, right? And we all love that part of the story.
We have to have that conflict.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely love that. But I think one thing that is super underappreciated, right, is how the villains in these stories never go through that. They never do.
They just do their dirt.
They lose every episode. And at the end of the episode, next time, Gadget. Next time. They're back.
Yeah.
The episode hasn't even ended before they're plotting their next turn. You know, they're never discouraged. They get knocked down and get right back up. They never doubt that they're ever going to, according to them, they're going to win. They just have to fail. All they need to win is one time. Right? And so when I look at the kind of energy I want to mob through this world with, it's not that the idea of potentially losing, making me lose all of my marbles and all of my hope and faith. No, I want to move like the villains do in these cartoons. I want to take a hit and know nothing stopped me ever. Nothing will ever stop me. I will be back. 3 more will take my place. You know, that's the energy I want to move with. Also, in real life, the people who move like that win. Okay. Every time.
Okay. I like this villain energy.
Villain energy.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's because of the way they present it. They present it. They want you to love Clark Kent.
What has been your biggest knockdown?
Oh, man.
Your biggest knockdown.
Biggest knockdown? Woo. Definitely sometime inside the last 4 years. I would definitely say just the health stuff that I'm dealing with, for sure. You know, I think, you know, I've tried and failed at things. You know, I use failed sparingly because I think as long as I keep going, you know, a setback isn't a failure; it's a setback. You know, you don't lose money until you sell. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Right. You know, if you sell a stock lower than you bought it, you lost money. But if you keep that stock and wait for it to bounce, then you win. Right. So I use that word failed sparingly, but. You know, the health stuff I've been going through has been an identity changing thing. And so that's forced me to have to relearn myself and set new foundations for myself and just rethink a lot of who I am and my life and what I'm capable of. I think that was the biggest punch in the face because it truly made me question, what am I doing? Because I didn't know what I could do when your body has changed so dramatically.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're learning how to move forward and control the uncontrollable.
Yeah. That's it. You know, serenity prayer every day, you know, the wisdom to know the difference, you know, to know what I can control, what I can't control, and, you know, to focus on my circle of influence, the things that, you know, like I can't control right now what's happening internally in my body. But what I can control is how I respond to it, the mechanisms I have set up to help me deal with it, how much space and room I give myself for these moments of dealing with it, right? How accountable I hold myself to, you know, to not beat myself up if I can't accomplish everything in the day that I thought I wanted to accomplish in the day because of what I'm going through. Yeah. And historically, I would have done that. Historically, I am very... you know, if I put 10 things on my to-do list and I do 9.5, you know, there were versions of me that would have skipped dinner because of that. And, you know, I have to change that dramatically.
Oh, yeah. You know, the body is its own identity, right? Like, it will do what it's going to do. And, you know, sometimes we don't learn that until later in life. Like, I believe we're close in age, and that body will shut down on you.
Yeah.
if you don't give it what it needs.
Yeah. No,
Right?
It's real. It's you know, it's I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about myself and you know, what it is to take care of myself, what it is to love myself, and also what it is to protect myself.
Okay,
Protect my
come on with the
energy.
protection.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of. I'm very used to putting myself in harm's way, because you know I grew up with the idea that you know I'm headed to the music industry. There is no surviving the music industry without knowing how to dwell in a garden full of snakes,
You said that.
right? You know, and so you have to build the muscle of it, right? You have to build the muscle of not leaving the garden. You're there to win, right? And so you just have to navigate them. You are willfully putting yourself in harm's way, hopefully with the tools to navigate harm and to reduce the potentiality of harm, right? Well, you know, I had to build the muscle of what that looked like for me in a safer way, one that encompassed a little bit more than physically me, but also emotionally me, spirit me, creative me especially.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because, you know, terrible people doing terrible things can hurt my ability to be creative. And nothing is more important to me as an entrepreneur than being creative.
Yes.
And so that must be protected at all costs.
At all costs. At all costs. And, you know, just thinking about protecting your energy, surrounding yourself with good people, good energy. Energy is so important, right? It makes me think about, you know, we often say, I want a seat at the table. I really feel like, James, that you've built your own table at this point. Like you've built your own table and you're out here offering the seats. Am I right with that?
I definitely, I feel like I built my own table too. I think, but mostly not so much that, you know, I'm just this, you know, amazing, wondrous person who has just, I've decided to build my own table because I'm a king or something like that. You know what I'm saying? No, I think I built my own table because I had a different idea of what I wanted my life to be like. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it fit into existing table structures, you know? I think that's most of my life. Most of my life is me realizing like I don't fit into any of these shapes, you know. I'm a circle and a hectagon and a cone and you know, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm all of these shapes, you know, and I value them all enough to not truncate any one of them.
Yes.
You know, and so it's like, well, if I'm gonna sit at the table, I kind of need to build my own. And it's like, man, I got to build everything. All right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I was joking with Leslie back at the day at an Epicenter. And I was telling her, I was like, you know, I feel like when other people want a house, they just go and buy a house, right? But for me, I got to go to Home Depot, find wood, nails, a hammer, everything I have. I had to build it. You know what I'm saying? Like even everything in the studio, it's all custom.
It is. It's a beautiful studio too.
Thank you.
Yes. And how does it feel to build your own house and surround yourself with, you know, that protective energy? You know, just a way to really just set the tone and construct your own vision. Like that is just amazing for that to be at your fingertips.
It recently I've come to realize something about me. When I was a kid, big shout out my cousins, big shout out my cousin Jason. When I was a kid, one time Jason and I were playing. He's a few years older than me, maybe 3 or 4 years older than me. And he was like, James, even when you play serious. You know what I'm saying? You know, and years later, I come to realize how right he was, because I've always been a rather serious, you know, I'm serious about the things that I am ambitious about.
Even as a child.
Even as a child. If I wanted to win, I wanted to win, you know, and if I wanted to, anything I wanted to do, I was really serious about it. I was definitely, you know, the kid who, you know, who tied up his right hand to learn how to do a left hand layup, you know, until like 8 p.m. And, you know, I was definitely that person. You know, but I also think at times that, you know, I was so serious as a kid, probably for good reason, that sometimes, and not sometimes, a lot of times, I wasn't really being a child, right?
They say you got an old soul.
Yeah, I've had 7 million people tell me that, right? You know, I'm 12 years old, and they're like, this man responsible. And it's just like, all right.
But sure, for his age.
Yeah, absolutely, you know. And so now when I look at my space and I get the ability to build it, I realized that maybe a few weeks ago, I was like, wow, this is Neverland. Like, Michael Jackson built a space where he could be as imaginative as he wanted to be as a child, right? It was child focused, right? It was like, look, I want to be a kid again, right? It's on some Peter Pan, you know, type of energy.
Yeah.
And when I look at my space, I'm like, oh man, like, this is where I wanted to be when I was a kid.
And that's where we need to be. Like
Yeah.
the things that we loved, the things that we were passionate about when we were young.
Yeah.
That's really what's in our true desire.
Yeah, you know, I try to honor that. You know, I try to never forget that, especially now that I have a son, you know, and, you know, you want to understand your child. You want to be able to speak informed, not just direction, but from experience. And, you know, I feel like a lot of us, we forget.
Yes.
We forget the desire. We forget how the small things meant so much as a kid,
Exactly.
you know. And
How old is your son now?
he's 7. In February, he turns 8.
Okay, big boy. Yeah, he's understanding a lot now, huh?
He is. He's he performed with me at the release
I
party.
saw that, and you know, he feels he looks very comfortable on stage. Okay, can I say that?
He is.
Stunned like his dad.
You know, what's funny? Better than his dad. Like he is at his age. I was so shy,
Really?
and so awkward. There's no way I could have did what he did. No way, or at least made it look as good as he made it look.
He's
There's
made
no
it look
way.
good, babe.
Yeah, you know, and now he's performing at his school's like holiday performance show, and you know, it's just funny watching him grow because he's just like, well, you're not getting this from me. You must get this from your mom because I wasn't like this.
Wow, but he sees that in you now, though.
He does see that in me now.
So.
He does. So he every time he's by the studio, he's making music with me. He's on my beat machine, on the pianos. He has his own beat machine. He has drums, piano,
Oh, he's
everything.
gonna follow in your footsteps. How you feel about that?
He's expressed that, but I'll just say this, you know, I think I am most concerned with making sure that he knows that he can do whatever he wants to do, and I am most concerned with living the life that makes that true because of what his parents did while he was a child, right? And so, you know, that's what I'm mostly focused on.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are in the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the age of Aquarius?
I have a record called The Age of Aquarius.
Okay, well, you know all about the age of Aquarius. We did a whole show on this with my good friend Jarvis Hall, who dibbles and dabbles into astrology on last Tuesday. And, you know, he knows way more about the age of Aquarius than I do, and it feels like that you do too. But one of the things that stood out was heavy collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, I've probably said this 1,000 times. You know, 3 and 3 could equal 6, or it could equal 9. Just depends on how you twist and turn the thing in between, right? And that thing in between is called intention, right? So me and you can sit here today and make something, right? Or me and you could sit here, we could plot and scheme and realize we can take out several birds with 1 or 2 stones, right? And then make 9, right? And that's just called intention and creativity. I find that my mind always thinks with how many things can I knock out with one thing? You know, how many entities, purposes, and ideas can I serve with the smallest motion, right? One thing I learned just learning piano is that the greatest emotional shift happens at the smallest movements, right? So one half step up and you're in a whole different world of thought. And I love to do that. I love to collaborate with people. I love to collaborate with people in ways, honestly, and this is just the pioneer in me. I love to collaborate with people in ways that I've never seen done before, and also in ways that make people think, "Damn, how come I ain't done that before?"
Okay.
Yeah, I want people to be like, "Man, this is actually not that complex of a thing.
Yeah.
We just have to put some intention on it."
We sure do. Speaking of collaborations, James walked in with a little pink bag. I said, "Ooh, I got a gift from I Make Mad Beats today." And this is a collaboration. You have joined forces with my good folks over there at Coffee Black for a limited edition drop of Mad. Are we calling it Mad Black?
Mad Black, yes.
Coffee, and it smells so good. So good.
Yeah.
So did you help them create this?
So I got to leave some mystery behind the curtain, but I will say this. Bart took me through what felt like, big shout out to Bart, big shout out to Coffee Black. Truly my family, my brothers and sisters. I feel I feel very close to that organization. Bart took me through a ritual that felt like we was in the mountains somewhere and with fog. And no, we were at the Anti-Gentrification Coffee Club, but the process of it felt very spiritual, right?
And I'm sure it was.
In terms of like how to really gauge and taste and create, the collaboration. And I'll just say this, after watching how much they care about coffee and the experience of coffee. I'll say this really quick. I saw Bart essentially pour hot water in a cup just to prepare it for the coffee, right? The temperature of the cup in preparation for the coffee. When I seen that, I realized that I'm low level understanding.
Like he the real deal here.
Yeah. This is the next level. I don't know what's going on. I need to fall back and just remain humble. But we went through a process, and the result of it was, okay, this is the one. This is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to name it. This is the design for it.
Mad Black.
And Bart and Renata and the whole squad over there, everything that they're doing is so unapologetic. It's so us, you know what I'm saying? And it makes it easy to collaborate when the value sets are so aligned, right?
Yeah.
The morality value sets, the integrity, the creative, the dedication and resilience, everything is so aligned that I think I just rolled over, and then we had that,
You rolled over. You know what? And I get that vibe that you guys align so well. I feel that energy. It says on here, in celebration of Juan's, one day I'm going to disappear.
Yeah.
Strawberry, dark chocolate, and passion fruit.
Yeah.
I can't wait to taste this.
Yeah,
I'm a
you
big
have to.
coffee lover.
Yeah.
Are you?
I am absolutely, especially, I was, it's funny. I wasn't that big into coffee. I can't remember what year it was. We always struggle remembering when this actually happened. One day, Bart came to my house. This is probably 2018-ish, something like that. Bart comes to my house, and we talk about coffee. We probably talked for maybe 3 hours. And 2 of the hours were in my house. Another hour was just like out by the car. He was supposed to be leaving, and we just had a whole nother conversation. But and I think people describe me in this way too. So watching him help me understand me, watching him discuss it with so much passion and specificity, it made me curious. Like, I may not be getting the importance of this,
Okay.
And and it made me rethink and relook. And then what I realized what happened is that we make decisions about whole ideas of things based off of the lowest quality version of it, right? We over here getting Folgers or whatever, and then we're determining whether or not we like coffee, right?
So many options out there.
Right. But then when you get coffee that was cared for, curated, and done the right way, then you're like, oh, wow, this is coffee?
This is what it's all about.
This is the real thing here, And big shout out to Bart and Coffee Black for bringing that my way, for sure.
Big shout outs to Coffee Black. And speaking of collaborations, you've worked with some of the biggest brands out here. You've collaborated with the Memphis Grizzlies on the merch. How did that all come together?
Oh, man, this is a good story. This is a really good story. So, first of all, big shout out to Jason Wexler. Big shout out Chris McCoy. We were at the studio. Me and Kid Maestro, we were at the studio. Chris, if you're listening, this is what really happened. We were at the studio.
Look, let me take my phone out and record this one right here. This is what really happened. What happened?
Yeah. So we were at the studio, and it was me and Kid had been at the studio for probably 12 plus hours, and we were exhausted. And I looked at my calendar, and I was like, oh man, it's my man Chris's birthday, my man Chris McCoy, and he's having that party at his house. So I pulled up on Kid. I was like, yo, we got to crash, Chris's party, and we were both like, man, we were exhausted, but we got to go. I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to pull up just for a second, bro, just because it's Chris and it's mad love and, but I really need to get home and get some rest. And this is also me trying to respect where I'm at now with my health and all of that stuff. Because previous me would have been like, nah, we just going to stay for hours, just do whatever was necessary. So me and Kid, we go to Chris's house, we go to the party, and literally as soon as I walk in, the first group of people that are there is a woman named Molly, and Molly works at Indie Memphis. And so she's like, James, how you doing? She introduces me to some people that she was talking to. And it was interesting because these people were quoting my tweets back to me, right? Which for me made me think like, oh man, what do I be saying on Twitter? Like,
we're going to get into some of your quotes on Twitter and Facebook. It's a good thing.
Yeah. It made me very self-conscious, like, oh man, what have I been saying? Have I been saying some wild stuff? I don't know, And they were asking me about tweets and things that I'm working on and blah, blah, blah. And I'm realizing like, man, I don't really know these folks, what I'm saying? I'm just conversing with them because they're asking me questions about what I'm doing. And I know Molly, so these are a trustworthy group of people. Sure, I'll talk with them, what I'm saying? So we're talking for about 20 or 30 minutes, and afterwards I'm like, all right, y'all, I got to go. What I'm saying? It's time for me to be out. I got to get some rest. And one of the guys I was talking to, he says, yeah, you know what, James, like one day we got to get together and talk about your business and how we can collaborate on some things. And Molly was like, yeah, you should probably tell him who you are, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, let me know who you are, and maybe we'll get up, He's like, yeah, man, my name is Jason. I'm the president of the Grizzlies,
So casually.
Yeah, And I was like, what? And so again, I'm like, oh man, what have I been saying? Like, And I walk out of there, and I was like, I told Kid, I was like, yo, I think I just met the president of the Grizzlies, And he was like, really? I was like, yeah. But who knows, man? People just be saying stuff. So, and if there's liquor involved, and people could just be saying stuff. I don't know, A few days later, I get a call from Jason. I get a text message from Jason. He says, let's get up. We meet. And we started talking about collaborations in a variety of ways, actually. The lowest hanging fruit was what would become the 1-on-1 collabs, and launching that with a collaboration with Unapologetic, and doing some clothing collaborations. We talked about several other things too that are still in the mix.
I'm interested to know those other things that you guys are working on.
Other things that required some legal things to be figured out, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. But no, that's pretty much how it happened, and that relationship has been great. And I'll actually give you an exclusive kind of look into some things. Our collaboration with the Grizzlies, our next one is February 28th against the Knicks. We have a new clothing line drop, a new set of clothes dropping in collaboration with them. But we are also, in terms of performance, like it'll be a Grizzlies takeover like we've never seen before.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. We will be all over the place in the mode of performance. We've never done it like this before.
Unapologetically.
Absolutely. And so, as always, raising the bar and trying to make it that you don't know exactly what we're about to do.
Love it. Now, when you go into like a collaboration meeting on merch, on, fashion, is it really a 50-50 type setting?
In what way do you mean?
In making the decisions on, okay, we're going to go with that color on this piece of apparel, like those things.
So with the Grizzlies, big shout out to Carly. With the Grizzlies, we really just present them with a whole collection idea.
Okay.
We get to brand it. We get to give it a theme, and we formed a really good relationship with them where there's just a lot of trust. And they really just take our vision. Of course, Carly and the Grizzlies, they might have a few like, hey, well, let's try a piece like this, or we want a piece that can kind of fill this void or whatever. So they definitely have some input, but for the most part, they just really appreciate our vision. Yeah.
Wow, I like that. Yeah. I like that for such a huge entity such as the Grizzlies, right? Yeah. And not only have I been seeing you collaborate with them, I've been seeing some designers in Memphis really doing these huge collaborations. I like to see them mixing and mingling with the entrepreneurs and the creatives in the community, and they do that well.
They do that well. I think, I'm not going to claim to know everything behind the scenes, but I will say this, I run an organization, and so I know how much starts from the top, right? The energy in the meeting with Jason, it was we want to do something different. We want to be disruptive. We want to be more Memphis than anything we've ever been before. We want to compete nationally with how much we can represent our community versus how other teams represent their communities. That was the complete energy I got from Jason. It was I'll be honest, I was surprised. I was very surprised.
That big Memphis energy.
Absolutely. I was very much like, wow, this dude ain't playing. Like he's really about making this team the Memphis Grizzlies, not just the Grizzlies that happen to be in Memphis.
As they should. Yeah. Like, why not? Like, capitalize on this beautiful city. Yeah,
he had the energy for it, and the things that he told me he wanted me involved with, he followed up on those things, and so I'll just say this, when I look at how the Grizzlies are getting involved with the community, how they're reaching out to different entrepreneurs and now different clothing designers and all of this stuff or whatever, it feels on par for the energy I got from the president of the company. And so it's on one end it's surprising, and on one end it's not surprising, because I got a chance to talk to Jason long enough to realize, like, nah, all this is going to happen. This is a guy who really is capable of making change that way.
Yeah, that's good to know. And I can see, even further collabs with your apparel with specific players. Let's fine tune this and make this specifically for Ja or Jaren or your fave.
Yeah, we've had conversations about this. That's where things get particularly legal, as
I can imagine.
As, Nike
it can be
gets
done
involved. Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. But we are on the upswing of these things, and so it's just about like getting that consistency. Also, big shout out to all the people at Hennessy who are the main sponsor for the 191 collabs, help make it happen. We met some great people at Hennessy the last time we did our collaboration, so big shout out to them.
And you know what? Hennessy is a huge sponsor in Memphis. Like, that name has been ringing, I want to say, for the last 15 plus years. Like, things that I've been involved in, Hennessy has been a sponsor.
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely entrenched in the community.
They tapped in, and even when I say tapped in, I mean really tapped in. Like, when we met with them, they was straight stunting on us. The clothes they had on, it was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, yo, y'all really tapped in. They were really about, everything, and about pushing the culture forward and, playing a role and helping make that happen, So yeah, big shout out to Hennessy.
Yes. And speaking of Memphis, big Memphis.
Yeah.
James, what is your place in Memphis music right now?
Woo! What is my place in Memphis music? This is a good question. I'll say this, the other day I was listening to like old Project Pat, Juicy J, and I was just sitting with my wife and I was telling her how much, like, how much I respect them. I'm a fan of their music, but like, even beyond that, how much I respect the fact that like, and I know, because I traveled a lot as a kid. And so I know I have a great idea of what was happening in Atlanta, in Florida, on the West, Texas, New York, right? And to see these guys like have their own lane, and not feel the need to sound like what was happening in other places, and or even sound like what was happening in, with other artists in the city, right? Like it's like that was the birth of today's trap sound, which is the biggest sound in music right now, right? But they were pioneers, right? They stuck with it. Even when you would travel 2 hours in any direction and you would hear nothing like that, and it might be unfamiliar to those people, right? They took that sound to the globe no matter what, When I think about my position in Memphis music currently, I guess it's a shameless promotion, but I think it's an unapologetic one. I think it's one where it's like, wow, that guy is really himself, right? And I'm not only myself for arts purposes, it's working for him economically.
It is.
Right? Like, I'm winning, right? I'm building things. I'm affecting people's lives by just being outrageously myself and nothing like anything else happening here. I'm inspiring people. I am collaborating with international organizations, being outrageously myself, not fitting in, right? I think the worst thing you can do right now is fit in, right? You're competing with 7 trillion people. You're competing with more people than there are people on earth, right? The worst thing you can do is fit in, right? And so when I look at what I'm doing here in Memphis music, is I would like to think that when it is all said and done, people will look back at me as an example of how to be yourself and win. Yeah.
What do you think is the hesitance for people not to be themselves most of the time?
Yeah. I think there's a few things in play. I think validation, right? So I'll say this, it does take a certain kind of resilience to create something that no one's seen before or heard before, and know that they might not understand it, right? And that you might have to create a world to help people understand that, right? Versus the opposite, whereas when you create something that's already been done and is familiar, people know how to move to it, they know how to nod to it, they know how to enjoy it.
It's the
right?
familiarity.
Right, but it's also much more likely to be forgotten and replaced by other people doing familiar things, right? So I do think that there is a kind of resilience necessary in pioneering, right? In innovation, right? As you have to deal with your idea being unfamiliar. Big shout out to Chris Reyes in Bevo downtown, right? On Mud Island. That's something that I've seen him work for 7 years or so. You know what I'm saying? I've seen him introduce this idea, and it was an unfamiliar one. It was one that people had never seen before. People never heard of Meow Wolf. People had never been in these immersive experiences, right? But it took him years to explain this idea, and now he's making it happen. Now it's happening on Mud Island, and when it's all said and done, his creation is going to change the city, right? And he will be known as a pioneer. But it takes somebody like him who can look at people, be confused or not understand or even be against the idea for years. I think that is one of the biggest thing that keeps people from choosing unique paths. It's that it takes a while to get validation.
It does.
It does take a while. But once you get that ball rolling, right? The first time I saw success, from being me, you begin to inspire other people to be themselves. Mm-hmm. And then people are more likely to say, okay, I don't get this, but I want to get this. Mm-hmm. Right? And then, you broaden minds. And it's a beautiful thing when someone has whatever it is, the gumption or the resilience to get out. The way I love to put this is like, when you trying to grow out that afro and then you got something in between fade and afro, that's the hardest part.
It is.
That's the hardest part. Because
that beginning.
Absolutely. Most people are going to be like, man, cut your hair. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It don't look like nothing.
Right.
You trying to shape it up and line it up, but it still don't look like something.
The whole while is becoming something so beautiful.
That transformational phase is the hardest one. And I think that's what keeps people from pioneering new ideas, and just keeping a Caesar or fade.
Keeping a Caesar or fade. Wow. Now, you said something right there, and you're such a great storyteller.
Thank you.
And you mentioned this a little bit a few minutes ago about the folks from the Grizzlies quoting your tweets. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about that. Let's sit in that for a minute because Facebook, Twitter, it's like your brain is oozing out into the digital world of these profound statements. And you're probably just on there thinking about it and you're typing it. Am I right?
Yeah.
But it resonates. It resonates.
As you know, I have a TED Talk called Someone is Waiting on You to Be You.
Yes.
Right? And so it's kind of like my promise to myself. It's a daily practice, a routine, is to be me out loud in some way, right? So social media is the easiest way. But today, it's being on your show, right?
Yes.
Right? It's to speak about things that I truly feel and are truly concern me in the most nuanced way possible, to leave complex ideas complex, right? Mm-hmm. And it's something that I practice. There was a time when I was absolutely terrible at this. But when I am, having these ideas and I type them up on Facebook or on Instagram or something like that, I'll tell you when I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It's like when I finish typing it up, if I feel a little bit of anxiety about like whether or not people are going to understand me or people are going to mistake what I'm saying, or that's when I know I've typed the right thing, right? It means that, like, again, my goal is to be pioneering, right?
Yes.
If I'm typing something that I feel ultra safe and isn't pushing any boundaries, isn't pushing anyone to do anything better, isn't challenging ideas, right? Then what am I doing? I'm an artist, right? I'm an artist. My job is to disrupt. My job is to make people think, is to make people consider, to introduce new ideas. I can't be out here just typing safe stuff like, happy holidays. Like, nah, I gotta
go in on the thought.
Absolutely. And that's just who I am. I anything else would be a lie.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Yeah. And let's talk about storytelling for a minute, because I work with so many people who are podcasters or aspiring podcasters. Yeah. And we often dig into the importance of storytelling, crafting a story, the beginning, the middle, the conflict, the end. You're so good at communicating a good story. Were you always like this? Did someone teach you this? Did it come naturally?
Yeah.
All the things.
I didn't even know I got hired in 2019 to create essentially like a video for an organization in the city and their mission and their purpose, right? Now, I'll admit, when they first hit me up, I was just like, hey, man, I make mad beats. Like, I don't even understand why y'all want to pay me to, like, organize, your mission statement and thoughts into a general idea to tell it to people. right? Which, essentially they were hiring me to like help them market themselves.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, And I just remember feeling, I just had, imposter syndrome times 30 million. I just remember thinking like, bro, why y'all hitting me up? This is crazy. I was like, y'all need a beat for that? Like, what's up? And while I was there taking the meeting, there was a woman there. And she said to me, she said, James, you're a storyteller if I've ever heard one, And I just walked away from that day just feeling like, I'm a storyteller? Really? That's crazy. I don't even like talking. Like, and then maybe like a year later, big shout out to my guy, Bill Gaines. I was talking to him, we were in a meeting, and he said, James, you explain things through telling stories.
Yes, you do.
Right. And I was like, there it goes again. There's a storyteller thing again, And then I just realized, like, yeah, these people are telling the truth. It's true. I do find that analogies, parallels, patterns help explain things, right? It's math, right? It is, it's simply saying that, like, this story has the same parameters, maybe coefficients and variables as this other story. And it allows me to see the similarities between happenings, right? I think when I think about my talents that I've always had my entire life, the reason why I was particularly good at math is because I have always been good at seeing patterns. I've always been good at seeing, oh, this is like this. Really, how? Because this did this, and this also did this. And then helping people see that is like, wow, I never thought of that before, And that's what a story is. A story is a way to explain an idea, right? Through fictional characters or fictional place and time that helps people understand an idea without the need to get defensive because you're not pointing at them, right? Or to introduce any other messy characters, right? It's kind of like, I'm watching my child watch TV, right? Like, he's learning life lessons through like watching an elephant talk, right? And, I think once I realized that like stories are an incredibly potent and safe way to get an idea across and to disarm people from potential defensiveness, that would keep them from receiving this information, I just ran with it. I also think that stories also allow me the detail, right? So like when you're telling a story, right, the first part of the story is explaining the setting, right? The weather, what country they're in, what year it's in, blah, 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 blah. I hate leaving out details.
Right.
Right? I hate leaving out details. And so stories allow me to keep the details in, and the person who's receiving the story understands the importance of these details. I think I would say all of this is how this happened.
You know what? I was sitting here listening to you thinking like, James would be so great to come and talk to my podcasters about storytelling. Like that would be a good collab we need to talk about, because it makes you such an effective communicator through storytelling, because people can just understand better when you tell them a story. It's just proven, like and it also helps if you have a good personality and can be a little animated with it.
That happens over time, especially I think the first version of that is anybody who went to church, especially who went to the Southern Baptist Church. Your first version of being a little animated is being a preacher.
For sure.
That's a good foundational start of these things,
And we got a lot of preachers.
Absolutely.
Out here in the
Indeed.
Man, we can talk all day. Like, do you know our hour is almost up?
Really?
And I haven't even hit on everything I wanted to hit on.
Yeah.
That just lets you know you were overdue for a Verbally Effective podcast.
I was.
And we got to get these collaborations going. But before I let you go, James,
Yeah.
I do want to know, what does 2025 look like for you as an artist rather than as a producer, CEO for your label?
Okay. So first and foremost, you will get a hug specifically for asking this question.
Okay.
This is a thank you. That means
You're
a lot to
welcome.
me. As an artist, like I said, there is a follow-up to Wands already in the tuck, waiting to top at February of next year, right? But, this is probably the first time I'm saying this publicly. We're currently in the midst of setting up a national planetarium tour for Wands.
Wow.
Yeah. As always, like I said, I'm definitely about more birds with one stone. The release show wasn't just about releasing the project. It was about a case or an example to sell to planetariums nationwide, starting in Seattle and ending up on the East Coast.
Let's
And
go.
And we've already made some headway on that. I can't really speak much more on it. But
It looks so beautiful in there. Like the big bubble. Like, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like I said, you in Vegas at the, that big one.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it, but yeah.
Yeah. We're So
It's coming.
we're working on some things. So there's that. But I also think I look forward to 2025 being like a renaissance for me, exploring what being creative even looks like. I'm always going to come home to music, but it's very clear to me that being creative means a lot more than music at this point in my life. I have big shout out to Noah Glenn. We have an award-winning short film that's this month playing in Italy.
Wow. Congrats.
And thank you. And, and just continuing down a few other ventures of ideas. And I also think we're working with the FedEx St. Jude Championship. We're helping them activate and do things throughout the year, as well as, at the actual experience in August of next year. That's also my creative mind. It's not just spreadsheets and all that stuff. It's being very creative on how to make things like that more Memphis. That's a big shout out to Joe at the FedEx St. Jude Championship. That's what we're working on. Is we want golf much more accessible to Memphians, and we want these tournaments to look, feel, and breathe much more Memphis.
Let's go.
And that's for me, again, that's pioneering, that's disrupting. Big shout out to, basketball will always be it is my first love. It's the first thing I ever wanted to do was play basketball. But who would have thought, the kid from Orange Mound is going to introduce golf, you know what I'm saying? That's pioneering to me. That's disruption. That's something different, and I consider that as, that's a big goal of mine for 2025 as well.
That is so exciting. That is huge. Salute to just expansion, growth, creativity, more to come in 2025. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah. Now, we have definitely talked about so much. We have to bring the show to a close. I've truly enjoyed you here on the Verbally Effective podcast. I definitely want all of the listeners to download the Wands Project out on all digital platforms. Any final words for the good people out here in the I Make Mad Beats?
I'll just say this, unapologeticstore.com, get some coffee. Mad Black coffee.
Mad Black.
Yeah, get some coffee, get a hoodie, get a t-shirt, and like Ina said, find Wands. I Make Mad Beats, Wands on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you listen to music, go and check it out.
Yes, let's run them numbers up in Memphis,
Let's
okay?
go.
Let's get them
Let's go.
downloads, some streams. We talked about it all on the show today. Once again, thank you so much, James Dukes, a.k.a. I Make Mad Beats, for joining me today on the Verbally Effective Podcast. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button on all streaming platforms and check out that Ina Esco YouTube channel as well. I'll see you guys next week right here, Tuesday, noon on WYXR with the Verbally Effective Podcast.